Welcome to yet another tale from Tales of Africa. Anansi and the Magic Pot, a tale of greed and generosity. Ready? In a quiet village, nestled between the arms of tall mountains and the edge of a dense forest, the people were kind and hard-working. They tended to their fields and shared what little they had with each other. But now the village was in trouble. The rains had stopped, and the rivers had run thin. For months the sun had baked the earth, and the crops no longer grew as they once had. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky turned a deep red, the village elder gathered everyone around a crackling fire. His face, lined with years of wisdom, was calm but serious. Elder's words: "In times of plenty, we forget the strength of community. It is only when the earth is dry and the river runs thin that we realize, alone we are weak, but together we thrive. A man who eats alone may fill his belly, but he will starve his soul. For it is not what we take that defines us, but what we give." The villagers nodded solemnly. They had little left, but they knew that as long as they worked together, they would survive. Anansi, however, sat quietly at the edge of the fire. He was a clever spider, known for his tricks and schemes, and though he smiled with the rest, his mind was elsewhere. As the days passed, Anansi began to grow impatient. The village was sharing its food, but there wasn't enough to satisfy his hunger. He often thought to himself, "Why should I share what little I have when I am clever enough to find something better?" One day, Anansi decided to venture deep into the forest, far beyond where the other villagers dared to go. He had heard whispers of strange and magical things hidden there, and if anyone could find them, it was him. The deeper he went, the darker and more mysterious the forest became. The trees were ancient, their branches twisted like old fingers, and the air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something powerful. After hours of wandering, Anansi stumbled upon a clearing where a strange pot lay half buried in the ground. It was old, covered in carvings that glowed faintly in the fading light. Anansi's heart raced. This must be it. This must be the answer to all my problems, he thought. As he reached out to touch the pot, a voice whispered through the trees. Spirit's voice. "This pot will feed you, but remember, hunger is not just of the body. Greed feeds on the soul, and the more you give into it, the more it consumes you." Anansi paused for a moment, but his greed quickly overtook his caution. He grabbed the pot and rushed back to his home, eager to test its power. That evening, Anansi held the pot in his hands, staring at it with wide eyes. He wasn't sure how it worked, but he had heard stories of magic pots in the past. Tentatively he whispered, "Pot, make me food." To his amazement, the pot began to glow, and within moments it was overflowing with the most delicious foods: roasted yams, sweet bananas, tender meats, and fragrant stews. Anansi's mouth watered, and he wasted no time devouring the feast. It was the most he had eaten in weeks, and his belly grew round and satisfied. But as he ate, a thought crept into his mind. Should I share this with the village? He imagined the grateful faces of his neighbors, the joy it would bring them. But then he remembered the warning of the spirit and thought, if they know about the pot, they will want to use it too. There won't be enough for me. So Anansi decided to keep the pot a secret. Each night he would sneak back to the clearing in the forest, call for food, and eat alone under the stars. Each day he grew fatter, while the village grew thinner. The villagers began to notice his change in appearance. Wife's suspicion. "Anansi, where do you go late at night? Why is it that your clothes no longer fit, yet we've seen no food in the house?" Anansi would laugh nervously, brushing off her questions. "Oh, my dear, it's nothing, just a little walk to clear my head." Meanwhile, the drought worsened. The villagers were growing weak, and what little food they had left was being rationed. Families gathered at night to share their last supplies, but the meals were small, and the hunger gnawed at their bellies. One evening, as the village gathered once more around the fire, the elder spoke again. Elder's fable. There was once a man who claimed the river as his own. He built walls around it, letting no one drink. His thirst grew as he drank alone, yet still he would not share. But the river, like all things of nature, belonged to no man. It grew tired of his greed and dried up, leaving him with only the taste of dust in his mouth. Remember this, my children, what flows freely will never dry up, but what is held too tightly will disappear. The words struck a chord in Anansi, but he pushed the feeling aside. What harm is there in keeping the pot to myself, he thought. I found it. It's mine. As the days passed, Anansi continued his nightly feasts, but something strange began to happen. The food the pot produced started to taste different, less flavorful, colder. One night, as he called for food, the pot trembled in his hands. The meat was overcooked, the fruit sour, and a chill crawled up Anansi's spine. That night the spirit returned in his dreams. Spirit's warning, "You were warned, Anansi. Greed is a fire that burns all who touch it. You fed your body, but starved your soul. Now you see what happens to those who take without giving." Anansi woke in a cold sweat. He knew the spirit's words were true, but still he could not bring himself to share the pot. Instead, he tried everything he could think of to make the magic work again. He whispered to it, shook it, even begged it, but nothing changed. As the food from the pot grew less satisfying, Anansi's guilt began to weigh on him. He would sit alone in his home, staring at the pot, his stomach full, but his heart heavy. The more he ate, the emptier he felt inside. Anansi's reflection, why should I share what I have found? Yet why do I feel this emptiness inside? The more I eat, the hungrier I become. Is this pot filling my stomach or feeding my greed? His thoughts haunted him, but he still couldn't bring himself to reveal his secret. One day, a young child saw Anansi sneaking through the trees and told the villagers. Suspicion grew, and soon the whole village began to watch Anansi more closely. Finally, they confronted him. Villagers' accusation. Anansi, you've betrayed us. While we starved, you feasted. How could you do this to your own people? Anansi tried to deny it, but the evidence was clear. His round belly and the faint glow of the pot betrayed him. Anansi's confession. I thought only of myself. I thought the pot was mine to keep, but now I see that I've hurt you all. I was wrong. The village was angry, but the elder stepped forward, his face calm and wise. Elder's wisdom. Anansi, you have wronged us, but we are not without mercy. For in this world, justice and mercy are like two hands. One cannot stand without the other. You must make right what you have broken, and in doing so, you will restore not just the pot, but your place in our hearts. With a heavy heart, Anansi agreed to share the pot. That night the village gathered once more, and Anansi placed the pot in the center of the circle. When he called for food, the pot began to glow once more, and this time the food was plentiful and warm. The villagers rejoiced, and a grand feast was held. As they ate together, laughing and sharing, Anansi realized the truth he had been avoiding all along. Anansi's words. I thought I could fill my belly and be satisfied, but I have learned that a belly is never full unless the heart is full too. I was clever, but cleverness is not wisdom. True wisdom comes when you see that your hands are meant to give, not just to take. As the night went on, Anansi knew that his journey had changed him. He had learned that true wealth was found not in what he kept for himself, but in the joy of sharing with others. Anansi's final thought. I was rich in food, but poor in spirit. Now I know that true wealth is found in the joy of others, in the laughter of a child, and in the shared meal that brings us together. This is the greatest magic of all. The end. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed this journey through the tale of Anansi and the magic pot. Stories like these remind us that true wealth isn't measured by what we have, but by what we share with others. Anansi's cleverness may have brought him fortune, but it was generosity that gave him true wisdom. Stay tuned for more stories from Tales of Africa, where we explore the rich folklore and lessons. If you liked this story, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to Tales of Africa for more exciting adventures. Until next time, let's keep the magic of storytelling alive. Hakuna Matata.